Hello, everybody, and welcome to Girl Let's Agree to Disagree. We have a very last minute, but I'm so very excited to have Miss Britini D'Angelo.
Hi!
Yay!
Jess,
Anyway,
I am literally so excited. I've missed you so much. I
I
just
have
love you. I've
two.
missed you. How are you doing? Like, how is life?
Life is a lot. Life is a lot, especially with BB, trying to catch up on Big Brother. I literally went to sleep at like probably 4 in the morning because my eyes just cannot do it anymore. So it's been weird trying to retransition into, BB mode, but I'm doing it. It seems like every time people on the show, like the house guests, want to talk, they want to talk at something crazy at like 2 in the morning their
I
time.
swear, like all day, it's like nothing. And I watch the feeds and I'm like, what's happening? Like, why aren't I seeing anything? And then it's like, I'll get up for the gym at like 6 because my class is at 6 and they're up talking game. So then there's me on the treadmill at 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, this is when I'm listening to them talking about. It's so odd to me. Cause like I was in bed by 1 a.m. in that house because I was not like my sleep meant more to me than game
I mean, well, we see it. We see it in the house, but you know what?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this because we have a little bit of time. We're going to try to make this nice and short and concise because today is eviction day. We have our live eviction today. A historic week 6. I always say historic week 6 because I was HOH on my week
Yes,
6.
you were HOH
So
on week 6.
so I always call it a historic week 6, and some people surprise me, some other house guests surprise me, and we'll talk about how Taylor compared. Before we do any of that, if this is your first time, click like, subscribe, click to receive notifications for GLATD. We are on so sporadically, I couldn't even tell you. I'm so sorry. We want to start scheduling. The only thing that is a for sure is that we are doing exit interviews every Friday. So we will have one up tomorrow. And I don't really think we know who is going up tomorrow. I mean, are we
Yeah.
100% like feeling good about
Yeah.
Indy leaving?
Yeah. I think at this point, I mean, it's tough because like from a threat perspective, like the only thing is like Terrence has not really proven himself in competitions. And then if they want a shot, like Indy would win over Terrence. Like right now, Indy's just proven it, but also there's been comps where Indy's gone out first. So it just kind of depends on who competes in what. But I think they are pretty set right now, and Indy's the one that's got to go. I don't think they're set though in who's voting for who. I know they know Indy's going to go out the door, but they don't know how the votes are going to fall yet.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting week. Let's go all the way back because like when obviously Twitter is our saving grace. All of us have been keeping up with each other on Twitter and
Yep.
like what we're thinking about the season in general. But you, Brittany, this is your first time watching after your historic season.
Yeah.
So can you just give me a little bit of like your feelings? Has this triggered you in any way? Is it like comforting to see? Has it been hard? How are you enjoying the season?
Yeah, I definitely am enjoying it more now than I was at the beginning of the season. I think it's just like coming from my season where like it was so historic and we were such a family, and like even though people had to get evicted, we still kept that familial bond. And then even outside we've kept that familial bond as well. It's been interesting to see like this house dynamic compared to ours. It also was weird the first day seeing someone sleep in my bed and I was like, "Wait, that's my bed. Don't go in the boat room. That's my bed." But I feel like it's definitely been interesting because it's a completely different dynamic of the season. Like even the house guests being like, "Oh, we're all going to keep in touch, but there's definitely more of you that I'm going to keep in touch with than others." That always happens, but like that was never the mentality that we had. We were like, "Oh, we're all going to keep in chat," and we still have 3 group chats going as BB23. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
nice.
But I think what has been so crazy for me watching this season is especially the obviously the treatment of Taylor has been something that's been breaking my heart and has been disgusting and vile to watch. And
Yeah.
then you have everything that's happened in this recent week and then everything that's kind of coupling together, and it's just so odd to see this like almost like bully mentality, but like the I'm better than you mentality kind of coming out more this season.
Yeah.
And it's not been fun. Like you don't need to play Big Brother with that like I'm better than you mentality or I deserve more, I'm entitled to more than you are mentality. Like I just don't think that that's necessary. But it's definitely been interesting because like our season wasn't that. So like you come from a season where like I experienced a very like, I'll be honest with you, a very kumbaya atmosphere where like we would talk game, but then like from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. we were playing games, we were having fun, we were just having like a chill time in the house because we were always hanging out together. Whereas this season it's just very separated.
Yeah.
I guess
And
is the
I
best
see
way that I
that
can
too.
put it.
Yeah, it is a very interesting dynamic, like the change to
Yeah,
see coming from a season like yours and then going into this, because even though we saw the gameplay and we saw, yeah, you know, not everybody was perfect on your season, right? There was still dramatic aspects to it. Some of it was a little monotone because we kind of knew what was going on, but there were still like players, people that were still playing the game, people that were still making strategic moves without it being
100%.
personal. And so, yeah, I think that that's that. So we do know, like, the, you know, this week has been interesting. Week 6 is a punkaroo. We experience a whole festival of punk of punk rock.
Rock on! Rock on!
Very interesting. Taylor's first HOH win. Obviously, a lot of BB Twitter and probably a lot of other social media aspects as well are very excited for this Taylor win. Obviously, as you mentioned, she has been pretty much bullied a majority of her time in the house.
Yep.
And has been left out of a lot of situations, was then part of the I was gonna say the cookout. Wow. The leftover the leftovers. But it's
It's
always
okay.
about
It's
food. It's
okay.
all about food. It's
It's
all
all
about
about food.
food.
It's all
You
about
know?
food.
Yeah. And but people aren't people aren't as excited about this Taylor HOH as we were expecting.
Yeah.
Why do you think this is?
You know, I mean, number one, the plan changed like 6 times, which I think just like, I mean, for me and you, like that, like I wasn't phased by a plan changing 6 times because I was like, it's Big Brother. Your mind is just kind of trained to be like, oh, it's only 6. That's great. It's not 12. So, but I feel like because it switched around so many times, and I feel like because I'll be honest with you, I don't think Taylor really had like a set target going into the week. Like it was great that she won, but I feel like Taylor easily could have not won this week too and been completely fine. But obviously between her and Kyle winning, she needed to stay on that wall. I mean, not that I didn't trust Kyle in terms of his allegiance to the leftovers, but obviously as we saw later in the week, it's a good thing the girl won it.
Absolutely.
But I think to myself in terms of this HOH, just because like I said, the target wasn't really clear. And then it was Terrence, and then it was Alyssa, and then it was Indy, and then kind of a fluctuation of the 3 of them. I think it's just been confusing as someone who hasn't played the game, at least for the viewers, to kind of follow her mindset. Because to the viewers, it seems like, oh, she's been jumbled. But I like as the game players, we understand like things can change every second in that house, and then she has a different
Absolutely.
perspective on what goes on, and that's why her target changes. So I think that's been the biggest kind of separation between her HOH's understanding of what she's doing and then the viewers.
Oh, and thank you for the super chat. Christian says Brittany and Jess looking absolutely gorgeous today. Thank
We
you
love you.
so much. We love you. Thank you for the super chat and supporting the channel. Question, Brittany.
Yes.
In comparison to a Frenchie HOH, are we experiencing the same thing with Taylor? That's a hot take, by the way, y'all. Don't cancel me, but no, seriously.
You know what? I mean, but I saw that comparison going all over Twitter. And my whole thing, though, is like, yes, but no. I feel like Frenchie's HOH was interesting because Frenchie just promised safety to everybody.
Yeah.
And then everybody was like, what is going on? And I think, I mean, honestly, though, but the way they compare is obviously because of the fact that they had like 5 or 6 different targets between the 2 of them. And nobody really knew who was safe. But the whole thing is like in Taylor's HOH, the leftovers knew that they were good. So there was that group of at least 6 people that knew they were fine.
Yeah.
In Frenchie's HOH, nobody was okay. Like,
But we're well, you didn't know him. Yeah, correct. You didn't know him long enough to know. Well, you knew you were okay.
I mean,
Because
I
he
knew.
couldn't
I
put
mean,
you. He couldn't put you up. He couldn't put the Jokers up, right? So
one of
you.
the only weeks that I was off the block, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. Britney's
Let's
back on the
go.
block. but that was also prior to you knowing that you were going to go on the block so many times, right? This
That's
was
okay. Yep.
beforehand.
That was
But
before.
yeah, and when I mean, and some people are let's like saying no. There's someone said no, Jess. Just a simple no. It was, you're right. I agree with some people in the chat saying yes, she had more valid reasons of wanting to put these people
Yeah.
up. Everybody was against her. When you look at it, even the people in her own alliance were against her at some point.
Correct.
So there is a lot of back and forth when you go from all the way at the bottom, to coming up to the
them being in power.
top and being in power and not knowing what is the best specifically for your game. I think
Correct.
the thing with Taylor's, obviously we've seen that she is just such a sweet person.
Yep.
In general, like, I mean, she has mentioned it even beforehand that she is someone who thinks about others before she thinks about herself, regardless of that that confidence persona that she has and how confident she is with either the way she looks or the way she presents herself. She still is a very loving and caring person and does
Yep.
and does not want to see people hurt in the process. Obviously, it makes it a lot easier when they hurt you first, right? So we have
Yep.
seen those moments where she can where she knows, like, she has so many people. Like, at first she wanted Terrence out, correct, right?
Yep.
She was just she thought Terrence was like her boy. She thought Terrence was like, she kept him safe, during his last time on the block. Now knowing that he's been trash talking her and
Yep.
wanting her out and doing all of this obviously hurts. So there is a little bit of that personal aspect, to it. Indy
Yep.
was never someone who was really going to join forces with, with Taylor. So that kind of just, makes sense. But do you think it was even smart that she was going to put up two of her alliance members as, because this is where I say that,
yeah,
just by mentioning it and saying it out loud, you do yourself a disservice to the people who just feel so close to you. It's almost like, oh, now it's on. They don't have my back the way that I thought they would have my back. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was not the biggest fan of putting two alliance members up. I could see putting up one so that she would have somebody guaranteed who could like play in the veto for her, was going to use the veto and do whatever she needed to do. But putting up two people, where that gets a little fishy is that if one of the other four, being Indy, Terrence, Jasmine, or Alyssa, get wind of a backdoor happening to one of the four of them, they're not going to use it, and then you have two leftovers on the block and you're screwed. So I wasn't the biggest fan of that plan. Putting one of them up, I was okay with, because I was like, two of you did it to Taylor, so she can return the favor to you. She would have justification to do so, but no, this week's just been interesting. And also going back to how messy and chaotic this was, the whole thing was like Frenchie kind of never had a set target. Like, he did, but he didn't, but then it changed, but that didn't. And Taylor had from 4 people. Like, she was choosing from a pool of 4 people. She just had to figure out how she wanted to get one of those 4 people out. Well, not even 4, take out Jasmine, so put 3. So she had 3 people to choose from. So I feel like hers is a little more structured in the fact that she knew she had to get at least one of these 3 people out, and how was she going to do it was the bigger question.
No, yeah, and that makes so much sense. I mean, and when you're in that position, it is very hard, because, as you said, she had all of these people that she could have potentially put up,
Yep.
And also she's working with the fact that she doesn't want to expose her alliance. She wants to make sure that she's also taking out people who are, who are coming after people in her alliance. And so she's kind of in a space where, and I think she had mentioned this to Monty a couple days back, or maybe even yesterday. My mind's always so jumbled when it comes to,
that always
to
is.
information.
It always is.
But she said something interesting, and she said that, to Monty, that the only 2 HOHs from the Leftovers alliance that were completely taken over were that of Taylor's and Monty's. Like they
Exactly.
felt like they could not, that when they did their HOH, everybody had a say in it. And, people from the Leftovers Alliance who weren't HOH were kind of trying to hijack their HOH, but everybody else, which I mean, really in this case is just
Turner and Michael.
is Turner and Michael.
Yep.
It was not, that was not the case.
No.
So how do we feel about that? Is it because, well, I'm also thinking that maybe it's also because it's now you're kind of in the middle of this alliance where people are more comfortable with each other and they're like, oh no, this is what needs to happen next. And obviously we're getting so close to the 7.
Yeah. No, I think what's happening is, I mean, obviously, like you said, we're getting close to the 7 and everybody's got their own agendas. I think this is why this week has been as chaotic as it has been, because everyone's trying to push their own agenda onto Taylor. And the bottom line is Taylor needed to do her agenda. And I wish she would have gone with that a little bit more, but like she was so concerned with pleasing everybody else that she was almost forgetting, well, hey, this is my HOH. And I think Monty, to a point, like they were doing the same thing to Monty too, in terms of like, oh, well, like Nicole. And then, oh, what do we think about Taylor being on the block again? But Nicole. You know what I mean? So I just think that when like and I saw it less in Monty's week than I did in Taylor's week. I've seen it a lot more this week from them, but I definitely do remember it being a prevalent point in Monty's HOH as well. I just, for some reason, and I don't understand this, which is why, like, I really hope when the 7 happens, Taylor and Monty band together. Either one of them wins an HOH and just have had it. Because at this point, I mean, I'm hardcore rooting for the two of them. And also, this morning, they even had a wonderful conversation that Tiff reposted. And it was Monty apologizing to Taylor, like in full depth. He had before, but it was Monty in full depth, like apologizing for what he did first week. And they just had a really awesome heart to heart this morning. And I think the relationship is just so genuine. But it does make me question, like, why during the two of their HOHs, but not during anybody else's, was like, were they not allowed to think for themselves? Because Michael was allowed to think for himself. Turner was allowed to think for himself. Turner had a little bit of influence, but not a ton. But like, why was it during their 2 weeks? I don't know.
Yeah, actually, this is an interesting take from M. Moses, and thank you. It says Turner's original target was Taylor and somebody else, right? So, I mean, I could see Turner's of not hijacking, because obviously the Leftovers had not formed yet, right? And Taylor was his original target, except for the fact that he started realizing that other people were trying to hijack, not the Leftovers, but other people were trying to hijack his HOH. He says Kyle and Joseph hijacked his HOH for the good, yes, to get Amira out. So yeah,
that's why I said that it did happen a little bit in Turner's, because I knew that Taylor was his original target until Turner put together the numbers and was like, well, wait a second here. Amira's the one that hijacked this and was spearheading it to get Pooch out, and that's when he turned the target. That will forever be one of my favorite HOHs of the season, was Turner's.
Yeah. Oh, he had an amazing HOH. Yeah.
Especially because of his speech. Like, the fact that he's the youngest house guest in that house, and he was the one that was standing up for the bullying, is everybody who were the bullies and the bystanders were like, wow, I feel awkward right now. Like the youngest person in the house had to stand up and be like, you all are being bullies, including myself. We're all being bullies and it's going to stop. So yeah. I just wanted to throw that in there because that HOH is going down as one of my favorites so far.
Yeah, I would agree with you as well. But I want to go back to what you said, because you said the 7 as if like the 7 was actually going to.
They're not going to get to 7. I guarantee. So here's what I want to happen. And I don't think this is going to, but I'm praying that it happens. I want Kyle and Alyssa on different teams. I want Britini and Michael on different teams. I want them to split. And then I want Kyle and whoever the other one is, I want Kyle in a group with all leftovers. I want all leftovers in one group, and I want the other group to be 2 leftovers in the other 3. I just think that the chaos that would come out of that kind of week would be gold. I'm thinking as a viewer now, I'm like, I want 5 leftovers and 2 leftovers in the 3 that are remaining. I think it would be hilarious.
But there is are there specific leftovers that you want in the 5 and 5? Like these 5, any 5?
I would like. I don't know if there's any 5 that I'm like really wanting together. Just 5. I just want to see a little chaos ensue, but I want the chaos to ensue in a way where Taylor and Monty don't have to worry about anything. I want that chaos to ensue.
Okay.
And I also am rooting for Joseph. I agree with this comment right here. Joseph, Taylor, and Monty. But here's my thing though. If they're together, I'm like, okay, that'd be great. But also, I'm totally okay with Monty being the HOH of one side and Joseph being the HOH to the other. So I don't need them together if they both can win the HOH for me. That'd be great. I'm down.
Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about that in like just a few minutes, but let's go back to like the middle of this week because yesterday we saw the Veto episode.
Punishments!
And we saw the punishments. We had punishments my 6th week too. That was I feel like our punishments were amazing because we had that was when Tommy was a rocket. He was, he he was a rocket, and then crazy so that Jack was being bullied by an alien, and Jackson was getting spewed by alien guts everywhere every like 5 minutes, which I mean it was great. This Veto though, there's a lot of controversy back and forth
So much
on gameplay here. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brittany, because I mean, when you're a BB fan, you know not to take
not to take the trip.
prize.
You know not to take the prize. You take the veto or you take a punishment and shut up. Like, I literally was like, especially when Alyssa, I'm guessing you're talking about Alyssa taking the trip from Taylor.
Yes.
The moment that happened, I was like, Alyssa, don't do it. Don't take it away from Taylor because Taylor's safe right now. She also can control what you do. Take the veto or keep the punishment in your hands or just take the veto, please. And then she takes the trip from Taylor and I'm like, you're a super fan and you took the trip to London. And then obviously, I mean, I have not been like a super Jasmine rooter. I think Jasmine's super entertaining this season. Her bits are hilarious to me. But like Jasmine taking the trip from Alyssa was a little poetic justice to me. I was like, Alyssa didn't even get the trip. She took the trip. She don't even get it in the end.
She ended up getting money. So I mean, I'm
pretty
sure it's just about the same amount as whatever that trip was, to be quite honest. But we see kind of a little bit of a fallout actually between Twitter, like BB Twitter, because some people Alyssa's cousin, who just happened to just pop on to Twitter yesterday or
Alyssa's
whatever.
Cousin was on Twitter.
Oh yes, Alyssa's cousin was on Twitter and said that Taylor was petty for wanting to target her for taking a trip. It's like it's so obviously we could tell that I'm assuming she's a casual. So like we're going to be assuming that they do not know how the game is played. But in any scenario, do we see, and the chat can also chime in on this, do we see a moment in where Taylor was wrong for being upset? Because I totally would have been as well. We know not to take the money.
You don't. The whole thing is like, if you're the HOH, you have a little bit of sway, and if Taylor wants the trip, she doesn't need to win the veto because she's safe already.
Correct.
But like the whole thing is, you can't call Taylor's reasoning about that petty. Because, let's not forget what's happened the first 5 weeks of this season when if Alyssa has said enough about Taylor herself. She also has been a bystander to a crap ton of other things that have been said about Taylor. So Alyssa really doesn't have room to talk because she has been, in my whole thing, in my philosophy on it is like, if you are not one of the ones directly bullying Taylor and you've been a bystander to everything that's happening, I blame you just as much because you could have said like, guys, stop it. Like, let's not be those
Absolutely.
kind of people. You could have stepped in. And that's what Alyssa's been this season. So the whole thing of like, I give Taylor every right to be petty. Let the girl be petty.
Absolutely.
Like,
And this is from Shelby, and thank you, Shelby, for contributing to this. She said she cared more about how safe Alyssa
was
felt
feeling than
taking the
taking the
trip.
trip.
Think about you being HOH and telling a person that you're not even that close to, like,
Yep.
is insanely jealous of the relationship that you have with her showmance,
Yep.
and then saying I got you just so that she can feel comfortable in a relationship with you, in a game relationship with you, and then have it flip to where this girl feels so comfortable that she's about to give you a punishment
Yeah.
on your HOH week.
Yeah.
Like, and this has nothing to do with with the pettiness of having it. Of course, that's always upsetting.
No.
Nobody wants a
The whole
punishment on their
the whole
HOH.
yeah, the whole thing is like that was the bigger part of it, and I agree with that person 100%. The bigger part was that is the safety, because why is Alyssa feeling that comfortable? Why is Alyssa feeling that safe that she's like, oh, I can take the trip and I don't need the veto? Like, I don't know about you. I never felt safe enough to do that. If I was in that, I mean, obviously I won the punishment cop my season. We love this. But like, even if I hadn't though, I would have been taking the veto, and I would have hoped to God nobody would have taken it from me, because I never felt safe in that house. If you feel safe in that house, you know you're playing the wrong game, because
Absolutely.
you never can feel complacent or safe or anything in the Big Brother house, because everything can switch on you in a dime.
Which you think would be I don't know. I don't know why she would feel so safe, especially in her season,
I
knowing
know.
that Alyssa was, not Alyssa, knowing that Amira felt safe, thought the game was easy. I mean, she probably didn't hear her when she said the game was easy, but or the fact that every person that has from her side, because it was also Nicole and Daniel,
Yep.
thought they were so safe when Nicole went up next to Taylor to take her out. There's no reason for you to feel this
No.
safe, especially in this season. She said it before. Pawns go home. She said it before. It's not like she's not aware of what this looks
Yeah.
like. And of course, she was very aware after the fact, like, because Taylor told her, you're gonna take this from me, like, seriously?
Yeah.
Like,
Like, it was shocking. I literally could not believe it. And I was like, Alyssa, what are you doing? Like, she even said in a previous episode, every one of my friends that I've thought has been safe has gone home. Why did I think that was a good idea? And I'm like, I don't know why you thought that was a good idea, because I don't got a justification for you on that one. I don't.
for real. Oh my gosh, we thank Miss History. Miss History, thank you so
Yay!
much for the super chat. She says, Justin, Brittany, you're doing great, ladies. Leo season, Taylor's default is miscongeniality.
Yeah.
Miscongeniality. I
Geniality.
blame and thank pageantry. Yes, I mean, I think what she meant was downfall instead of default, but yes, I mean, it is her downfall being miscongeniality and being nice and being expected to be nice,
Yeah.
coming from her pageant world. But then pageantry in general gives a sense of just this. Taylor has this confidence about her, and it's not, let's not confuse confidence with cockiness, because those are two very, very different
1000%.
things.
Yep.
But someone who is not confident in themselves, someone who is consistently doubting themselves, will look at a confident person and think they're cocky. And when I think
Yes.
that we're kind of seeing this, we've seen it in Alyssa. Alyssa is, insanely insecure about her relationship with Kyle, how she feels. I think someone in the chat had mentioned it, she does think that Taylor is, like, gorgeous. So there is this kind of insecurity.
Yep.
But we also see it with Britini as well, who just this week said that Taylor's HOH was, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but kind of looking at it as a mess and saying that it's gotten to her head and she's getting a little cocky.
Yeah,
How do we feel about that?
No, Britini fell way, way down in my overall liking of
Not my
people.
favorite Britini. She's not my favorite Britini.
Well, I appreciate that. No, my whole thing is this. I'm just like, the conversations that Britini has had this week, I've just been doing this the entire time. I'm like,
Oh,
Britini,
she
what are you
meant to
doing?
fall.
I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Because I'm like literally the fact that like Michael and Britini don't want a final three with Taylor. Y'all don't deserve a final three with Taylor. She don't want one with you either. Like
That part.
the whole thing is like, and that's what I'm talking about with this entitlement factor. So much this week, it has been, oh, we're better than them. We don't like, they don't deserve to work with us. And I'm like, who are y'all to say this? Like, y'all aren't safe. Y'all aren't the HOH. If you're Britini, you've won nothing except for a veto with Michael, which technically you won by default because Nicole was throwing it, so Taylor couldn't really do her best. Britini and Michael were competing full force, and then Turner and Jasmine couldn't compete. I don't take a win away from anyone, so Britini did win that veto. Let me rephrase. She won the veto. There were a couple factors working in her direction. I'll just say it that way. But like, you have no room to talk, Britt. And that's where I'm just like, it's just this entitlement factor between her and Michael and Kyle. It's really, really disheartened me this week. And it's just been very, very difficult to watch because they were so loyal to even in Michael's goodbye message to Daniel, he was like, you hurt my girl Taylor. Oh my gosh. And then to seeing how excited Taylor was to celebrate that HOH with Britini, and now Britini has to have conversation with people being like, yeah, like, I guess I have to go talk to Taylor, and I guess I have to go smooth things out. No, what are you talking about now?
Yeah.
Like, it's like the whole thing is like, they don't even realize how rude they're being to Taylor without being rude to Taylor. Like, you don't got to say it to her face, just don't make it rude.
Correct. Exactly. And I think that that's the thing. I feel like the season was cursed from the very first week. There is still, and I think a lot of people have said it very well on Twitter, is the fact that, Taylor came in as being kind of bottom of the barrel and was tolerable when when her wings were clipped, so to speak, when she was someone that they could take care of, someone, that was kind of at the bottom. And now that she's kind of coming into her own, now that people are starting to see a little bit more confidence, now that she has friends, or that she at least feels comfortable talking to people, all she has to do is laugh and people are like, oh, no, no, no. She's a little too comfortable here. And
I just don't like that feeling to me of like, you're too comfortable, or even Daniel saying a couple weeks back, like, she's not allowed to live normal. I don't understand this mentality. What makes me happy though, Jess, is that I think the way that this season is projected right now, I think her, Michael, and Kyle are going 7-6-5, 8-7-6, even 9-7-6. I think that they could go in that regard because even Turner wants Michael out because they've been trying to bring Turner into this Kyle, Michael, Britini, Turner thing. And Turner's like, yeah, I'm cool with that, but I want Michael out at 7. And Kyle's like, well, that's not what we were planning. And so Turner is not with them. Turner is with Monty, Joseph, and Taylor. So that's the positive that I'm seeing, is that at least Turner is thinking the right way and in the right direction. But like, it's just been like, why do you guys feel like you have this much pull? Why do you feel like you have like your word is bond? Why do you feel like your word means more than other people's? And or why do you feel like you get to have an opinion on everything else? It's just been weird to watch as people who, I don't know, like, it's just been weird. That's the best way that I can put it.
Yeah, it's been a very interesting. I don't say weird. I say interesting. Every time I say interesting, it's pretty much meant to say weird too. But it's like, I understand. It's just like interesting, in the sense that I mean, there's a lot of wishwashers when we go to someone like Britini. It's very interesting. But no, this one's actually interesting because I've said it before. And I have said that she's playing, or she's trying to play, a very BB Can 10 Kevin game. For those who knew about Kevin from BB Can 10, he's the current BB winner, BB Canada winner. And she did mention that she had watched his 5-hour deep dive. And he was very much of a manipulator in the sense like he created chaos, and we see that Britini is all about the chaos, except it's like a messy, not very strategic or well thought out chaos. It's a stick spaghetti to the wall, let's see what sticks type
Yep.
of type of chaos. And
Mhm.
it's not really working with her because she also doesn't seem to quite have the charm in itself to be able to play a game like that, because she's kind of also playing from the bottom up. And people have said it in the chat. It's almost like she has something against Taylor for the simple fact that they were both at the bottom, and that's how they connected, or that's why she connected to her.
Yeah.
And as she sees Taylor either win or get some type of power, or see that she's coming up in a differently than Britini, dynamics start to change, and all of a sudden she's trying to bring her back down.
And I feel like too, what's been the most disheartening part of this entire week, Jess, if I'm being completely frank, is like, you can play this game. You may not agree with everything anybody does in the game, especially those that you're working with, but when you lose the respect and you start talking without respect, that's when I start to lose respect. Like, I mean, there were things in the house that happened to me. I mean, week 6, as we're talking about, right? Kylan's one of my closest friends outside of this house, but we're not going to forget after he backdoored me that he got in my face, that he was threatening me, calling me emotionally unstable, calling me emotionally unintelligent. Like, those things happen where he got in my face and threatened that if I went against him in my campaigns, that he was going to come and make sure that I was evicted that week, even though everybody already knew that I was. But like, and that's, it's game and personal, but it's like, you don't, like, there's a respect line that doesn't need to be crossed. And Kai and I even talked about this in order to get to the place that we are today. We're like, he's one of my closest friends. I just texted him 5 minutes ago. I love the dude. He's amazing. But like, with this, it's been the lack of respect for me with how Britini is now speaking about Taylor, how Michael and Kyle and Britini are now talking about other house guests in the house. It's the lack of just basic decency and respect that just really breaks my heart, because that's not a level you need to go to the game in my opinion. And that's what's happening. And I don't like it.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see. As NY Proud said, with Michael and Britini, their arguments have always been, I have to smooth things out with Taylor. They know that something is up. Like they know how. I think they say optics, right? Like Britini has said optics. Let's try to clear some things up for the people in the chat and those viewers. Britini, do you feel that they're being tipped off by production?
Yes. And you know what, Jess, I never was tipped off by production in terms of anything in the house. And I can 100% say that with clarity and certainty. In this situation, I have no idea how they would have gotten there had they not been tipped off. Like, it was a complete 180 flip to me, where they were literally having a conversation not 24, not 12 hours before this flipped conversation came. And they were like, oh, we can't assume. I don't know. I mean, maybe they did come to that conclusion by themselves. Maybe they did. I personally am leaning more towards the side of production said something.
Yeah. And when I don't know if this is what you mean by this, Britini, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you say tipped off, like for me, I feel like I was tipped off on certain things that were very, very slight if I didn't catch them. And when we say tipped off, I mean asking certain questions and repeating them, and then focusing and like really trying to get your answer on a specific question to the point where you're like, why are they pushing this so hard? Something must be going on in the house. Or are we saying, hey guys, stop doing this, it looks bad on the outside?
Tipping off being the first one, being like, if you ask a question, and like I said, and then the more people talk about this, I really realize like that just did not happen with me. I mean, mostly the only thing that they really did with me was they were like, okay, let's condense your 5-minute speech of what you just said into like a 30-second bit. And I was like, cool, let's do it. Because
yeah, they help you. Like what production does a lot, and this is why you all think that like things are scripted, and in some cases they're not all. The only thing
they're not, but it's just like they want to condense your, like, they give you the time to like think of your broad idea and then they rein it in. So like you're saying the
yes,
same thing, just shorter. It's
they
not
make it
scripted.
concise.
They
They make it
concise it.
concise. They concise it, and then they say, "So would you say that it's like this, 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 and this?" And you'll be like, "Yes." And then they'll say, "Okay, well, can you say that? Can you just say this, 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 and this?"
Correct.
And you still have the option to say yes or no.
No.
Like if they say, "So are you trying to say that Taylor, doesn't deserve to live in this house?" And they'll be like, "Wait, no, that's not what I said. No, that's not what it is." And they're like, "Okay, then what is it? Because that's what you're saying." Like, or, there's just like so much time in the DR where
Yeah.
you
Oh,
can even
I would spend
overthink and change your thought process completely.
Well, and the whole thing too is like it'd be funny because like this DR when I went into the house was my place that I could finally vocalize. So like they would let me have like 10 minutes of beginning my DR session to be like, because I if I don't speak it aloud, I don't understand it. So I would go in the DR and be like, okay, these two people were in this room. This is what that, and they would just stay silent as I was explaining all this to myself. And I was like, Tiff and X were in this room talking at the pool table. They keep doing that. They're probably working together. These two people were here. They were in the kitchen. They were doing this. And I would just go through it. And then they'd be like, are you done? And I'd be like, I'm ready now to answer your questions. And like, but no, I think that in terms of this scenario, I do think that production could have been leading it a little bit. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they got to that conclusion on their own. My only suspicion to not say that is that it was literally less than a 12-hour difference between them saying one thing and them saying another, and being really bent on the other. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I just in my heart, I really hope that they didn't have to intervene. I just hope that Britini and Michael would know that. Just
no,
like
exactly.
you know what I'm saying. But like, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's tough.
Thank you, Marvel Holmes. He said, "We don't know how good we had it with BB23. I miss genuine friendships in the house like Ozzy, Derek, and Brittany had." They did. It was a very just wholesome, and they had her back. And it was, I mean, like, even to the point where, there are times where, someone wanted to get you alone and, they came right behind you. No, you're not going to do you're not going to do this to our girl Brittany, so they did have, your back,
Oh, 100%. And the whole thing is like, that's why I talk about genuine family relationships. Derek and Oz are still both my best friends to this day. And Oz and I were literally talking on FaceTime for 2 hours last night. Derek and I always have our 15-minute check-in chats. We also are our virtual workout buddies. So like we keep each other accountable. But it's just like, it's so great to have those people in your life. But no, that's why I say there is a difference in terms of the feelings of the season is like, I do see really close friendships forming, but like the family is just something that we had.
Yeah, that's something that a lot of people take for granted, and you only see it when you're comparing it to other seasons.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, wow, we did it like we said that we were going to keep this kind of short and concise, but we didn't even talk about absolutely everything. But before we go to just a quick questions,
okay,
what do you think of the current showmance right now with Kyle and Alyssa? Quick, look at me like quick.
I think it's taking away airtime from other things that I want to see. That's how I feel. I don't know.
I mean, lucky for you, it's only 10 seconds here and there. So it's just.
I'm sorry. I need to keep together. It really 10 seconds, I don't know. I really do feel like they could be showing so many other things in those segments of the game rather than showing the showmance. I'm not like, I'm all for finding love. But I just think that right now it's only benefiting Alyssa's game and it's hurting Kyle's.
Oh,
so
I mean, I don't even know if it's even benefiting Alyssa's game at this point.
Well,
I mean,
it's benefiting Alyssa's game only because Kyle's now trying to back her. I mean, it did save her this week because had Kyle used it and Taylor backdoored Alyssa would be gone. So, I mean, it did benefit. Sorry for the spoiler if y'all haven't watched the live feeds. Kyle does not use the veto because Alyssa was going to be the back door.
Oh, I forgot. Yes, the veto didn't even really
The veto was not even,
the veto wasn't shown. So yes, for those who are not watching the live feeds and are not sure yet, yes, he did not use the veto.
So I'm not a huge fan of it. I just think that I would rather see more gameplay than see them. That's my feeling on it.
Okay.
I would rather see more truths come out. than watching the Showmance.
Agreed. Thanks so much for the super chat. It says when Kyle brings Alyssa home to meet his mom and he goes in to hug her, Alyssa's gonna be like, okay, that's enough. Yes, probably. It's like she did this weird thing on the feeds. And did you see it when she was talking about how to her mom, to his mom, about how she wants to marry this man? Like this is really odd behavior.
Like
and
marrying and kids. And I'm like, what? Because then in other breaths, she's like, you're 29 years old, you live at home and you're a TikToker, you need to figure it out. And I'm like, which one is it?
No, it's a hot mess, Brittany. It's definitely I couldn't watch him yesterday because she was crying last night, and she was crying because she was crying specifically in the room because she was hoping that Kyle was going to follow her in there so that they could talk. And it's just like all of this manipulation, but manipulation in the wrong way. Like use that manipulation to benefit your game, not to trap a man. And I don't know how it's going to happen when she figures out that he left her out of so much and he's literally trash talked her game. It's going to be
I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to say my P's and Q's and run.
Okay, and then finally, what are our predictions for what we're going to see today in the eviction? Who is going to leave, and what do you think is going to happen for this 5-on-5?
Okay, so I think Indy is going to leave. I think the vote is going to end up being 6-2. I don't think Taylor's going to have to break it, but I do think that 2 votes are going to get cast for Indy, or if they just decide, you know what, everyone's voting out Indy, then it's going to be 8-0. In terms of the split twist, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be, I feel like realistically, it's going to be 4 leftovers with one of them and then 3 leftovers with the other 2. I think that's going to be how I think fate's going to work that way. I don't think I'm going to get what I want with 5 leftovers together. But I do think that because they have to do it quickly, it is a 2-hour episode, but they do have to do it kind of quickly. I think Turner's got a great shot at the HOH. I want Turner to have this HOH, and I would love to see Turner have it, and I would love to see Joseph get an opportunity to have the HOH. I also think that Monty could have a really strong shot because Monty's been studying his days. I don't think that Michael will win it. I don't think Michael thinks that he needs to. I think
that the conversation yesterday was between the leftovers was that they were going to try to give the HOH to Kyle or to Britini. So those are the 2. Like I don't think Monty's trying to win it.
I don't want either one of them to win it.
I know. So this is the whole leftover thought process, is that they're planning on throwing it to either Kyle or Britini. However, they are not aware that this is going to be
split.
Of this
so
split.
That means Monty, Joseph, Turner, get your brains muddy. Let's go. I want full 100% effort.
Correct. So let's hope for tomorrow, if Indy does leave tonight, what question would you have for her? Because I get to interview her. So
oh my God, you do.
I do.
Oh,
and she is the first juror. So like
she is juror number 1.
Yes.
If I got to ask Indy any question, I would ask her. I don't even know what I would ask Indy. I would ask Indy what her strategy going into this game was. Like, what strategy did she genuinely have walking in the door, and how did that change as the game progressed?
Yeah. I mean, I think I asked you that question too, but I think that's a very safe question to just kind of get a feel for, like, yo, what was your thought process?
I genuinely want to know what her thought process was going into it.
Yeah. So New York Press says, how do jury exit interviews work? So because they're in jury, we cannot ask them anything that they don't already know or they weren't privy to inside of the house.
Correct.
So no, I can't talk. I mean, I guess I could talk about the bullying in the house if it was the question about the speech, that Turner made that she was privy to.
Yeah,
But
like
in
these
terms
can't
of
be
like
as
the
open.
overall bullying, like if she did not see it, the only reason we were able to talk so much to the pre-jurors is because they're going outside to the outside world. So whatever they're going to know, they're going to know. Maybe things I could quote things that she has already said.
Quotes are fine, but
You
I
know,
feel, yeah,
so
besides that, you gotta be safe.
I think I could probably say something like, hey, you have consistently not had Taylor's back, and then put in a quote that she had said. So why did you feel like, that, Taylor, that you didn't have anything against Taylor this week?
Yep.
Or, like kind of the wish-washiness, but anything else that could at all change their perception of what's happening inside of the house
Yep.
is a no-go. And I will not be interviewing them face on. It will be questions. So CBS does go through the questions, and if they feel like they weren't privy to that information, they won't ask them. So
Yes.
unfortunately, they're not going to be as chaotic as Daniel's or Nicole's. And if you haven't seen them, please go back to our channel and you can kind of see the interviews. But yeah, it won't be any of that. So if you do have anybody in the chat, if you do have any questions for Indy and maybe Terrence, if we think he's going to go out, make sure you put them in the comments. Make sure you like this, and subscribe and comment specifically.
Guys, everybody support
question.
Jess right now. Everybody support Jess. Jess is amazing. She literally gives bomb interviews to every single person. She puts so much work into this podcast. So if y'all can support her, guys, do it. Please do it, because I love coming on here. She's literally amazing. She's wonderful. If y'all are support people who are working their butts off, and Jess is one of the people that are. So,
oh, I love you, Brittany. Thank you so
love
much.
you.
Thank you for doing this so last minute. Yo, I told Brittany, we usually have, for those who are usually on this, who watch these interviews or our recaps, they know that it never goes under an hour. But Brittany said, I will do it, but I gotta go somewhere, so we gotta be quick. She held me. She held me to the fire, y'all. She's like,
I literally am about to hop in my car right now and go where I need to go.
I appreciate the time and the dedication you give to me. I love watching your tweets. Tell everybody where they can find you if they don't follow you already.
Yes. So I am on Instagram, TikTok, and I have been an avid tweeter tweeter this season. So you can find me on Twitter at Brittany D'Angelo, no underscore, and then Instagram and TikTok, I am Brittany _ D'Angelo. TikTok, I've been answering your guys' questions. So if you guys have questions about the show you want answered, I've been answering them there. And then Instagram, we've been doing a ton of stuff on there. So it's just been super fun. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yes. So thank you again. Thank you so much, Brittany. I love you so much.
I
and
love
come back,
you,
because people are already
100%.
saying on the chat, like, they want you to come back. We can talk game all day if we wanted to.
Jess, I will. You let me know the day and I'll be here. You know I got you.
I definitely will. Okay, guys. Love you guys. Peace out.